Okay, let's talk Stormsunder versus Wild Ascent Lavon Rising. Both very similar games, both made by the same company, Lazy Squire Games. Both games that I badly want to give my money to, but I don't know if I can really back both of them. So I just wanted to talk through, what makes them similar, what makes them different, and help you decide as well if that's something you're weighing. If you can only get one of them, maybe this will help you decide, which is more for you. Because even though they're similar, I think there's some differences that will, sway me one way or the other. First of all, Lazy Squire Games, they've had some delays. So I don't know which of these is actually going to come out first. Because Stormsunder, it's actually late pledging right now. And I'm going to have to make a decision fairly soon because it's been in late pledge for a while. I'm not even sure if I can get Wave 1. If I can get Wave 1, I believe it's going to be here in March 2022. Which is, a decent ways out still. And then Wild Ascent, it already came out. It's already been kickstarted and delivered for the most part. I think some people are still waiting. I don't know. I think it's already been delivered. But this is essentially a reprint here. So Lavon Rising is it's an expansion that... So Lavon Rising, it's an expansion, and that expansion won't come out for quite a while, but the base game will. So they're making some changes. They're changing the minis to a PVC from a resin, so they're more durable, and they're doing some other things. And I'm not sure if they're even... I think they might even be a bit of a different size. So what I'm saying is I don't know which is actually going to come out first because Wild Ascent has already been delivered. They're going to be able to get out the base game here, this core game, and this next one. Man, there's a lot to scroll through here. There's so much stuff. Like the minis in this, they're just crazy. It is ridiculous how interesting, how detailed, how awesome the minis are. And then here's the other one that's going to come out earlier. These have already been put out. These are just essentially reprints with some upgrades and updates. So if I back Wild Ascent, I may actually get this before. I don't know. Let me know if you have any thoughts on that. Let me know what you think is going to come out first. Is the Stormsunder late pledge going to come out first? Or is the Wild Ascent, coming out first because it's essentially a reprint and they've got the assets ready for the most part. I know Lavon Rising, the third part here, is going to be, way, way delayed. I don't know. I must have skipped by it here. This is a Kickstarter page. For anyone out there who's doing Kickstarters, this is how you do a Kickstarter page. This is very impressive. Anyone from Lazy Squire Games, here it is right here. Lavon Rising, $150. And it, adds all of this stuff right here. It adds quite a bit. Each of these add a campaign too. So let's talk about the campaign. Stormsunder is a campaign game. There is no arena mode or competitive mode unless it's something they've tacked on since the last time I looked. It's a story-driven game. It's 300-hour campaign, and I think it's 300 hours, 100 hours per kind of pledge, right? If you go up in pledge here, you get essentially another 300-page campaign book. I think it's 100 hours per campaign book. The amount of content here is amazing. I think that the edge goes to Stormsunder here because I'm a campaign guy. Wild Ascent Lavon Rising, it's got campaign, it's got a tight campaign, like more of a focused campaign, I would say. The first one I think was 10 scenarios long, so you can get that accomplished in a fairly decent amount of time. So for you, maybe it's better, and maybe you like PvP as well, maybe you like, playing against your friends and kicking their ass or whatever. I'm more of a campaign guy. I like story. I really like story a lot. I like adventure games too. I've got the Seventh Continent sitting on my shelf. That's a fun one, and I've even backed the Seventh Citadel. So I really like the campaign. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Advantage Stormsunder on that one. Now, let's talk about price, because I mean clearly I'm in this situation because I can't back 500 games a year. It's too expensive. I am a full-time YouTuber. I left my job, and I have a limited budget. I've got to make sure and pick the games I think are going to be the best for my channel and the funnest. And so price is definitely a consideration. The price for just the core games is $119 versus $149 for Stormsunder. However, you get more content with Stormsunder. It's got drastically more cards. It's got 1,100 cards versus 360 cards. 49 miniatures versus 100 miniatures. And it's got more gameplay for me. And so I've been really torn up about this because I mean it's $30 US. That's I'm in Canada. It's like $40 Canadian. That's a fairly big difference. And if I was working my corporate job before, and this is the hilarious thing, I became a board game YouTuber, and I left like a very high level corporate job. I could have easily afforded and all ins and everything when I was working there. But now that I'm actually doing it professionally, I'm like, I have to be on this budget. Anyways, so technically cost goes to Wild Assent. But you do get more with Stormsunder. But just dollars to cents, Advantage Wild Assent, it is cheaper. Okay, let's just talk some intangibles. So in Stormsunder, your characters, they have their own personalities. It's really, really neat because if you do things that go against how your character, like say you've got a cleric, your cleric's a good person and you make them murder people. Negative things may happen. They start out with some sort of trait card or something. Usually it's a bad card. And then as you make decisions, they can actually change. Like maybe your cleric starts getting PTSD because they've had to murder all these people that went against essentially their alignment. It's a very unique mechanic that I haven't seen elsewhere. I don't know. I feel like there's things that are similar. If you know of a mechanic like this in another game, make sure and comment below. Let me know. And if there are any other games that you love that are like this, don't tell me about Arena the Contest and Arse Adventures. I've already got an all-in pledge on that. I've got an all-in pledge on Seventh Citadel, ISS Vanguard, Frosthaven. What else? There's more. Anyways, if there are similar games to this, let me know what else is out there, because I love games like this. I love minis, I love dungeon crawlers, I love adventure games, I love campaigns, I love all that stuff. It makes me happy. Absolutely love it. Anyway, so this unique mechanic I think is really, really interesting, and Wild Assent doesn't have that. It doesn't have anything like that I know of. I mean, I've read the entire Kickstarter page and I've, done as much research as I can reasonably do. If it does have a mechanic like that, make sure you let me know. But Stormsunder, I think the alignment mechanic and the fact that, your characters can even leave. As far as I know, like they can just be done. They're like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I think it's just really, really interesting. So I'm going to go like intangibles. I think that Stormsunder has some interesting mechanics, more interesting mechanics than Wild Assent. So I'm going to go point Stormsunder on that one. And then the aesthetic, how they look, their theme. I don't know what Stormsunder is. It like looks sort of Norse, like some stuff around like there's some Egyptian theming. It's a bit of a mixed bag. It looks like there's some angel and demon kind of stuff. I've seen vampires. I don't know. Let me know what it actually is in the comments, because to me it's a pretty mixed bag. And the minis are amazing, especially the storm, like how it looks with the Stormbrush stuff. I think the minis look fantastic. Like, they're so cool, but the theming is a little bit, to me, all over the place. Wild Assent, I think it's got a much more cohesive theme. It's like a monster hunter kind of theme, right? You're out, in the jungle, the forest, whatever, and you're out hunting monsters. I think the theming is a little more consistent. So I think that Wild Assent, aesthetic-wise, theming-wise, is a little bit better for me overall. It's just a little bit more cohesive. They are actually in the same world too, and I don't know if anyone knows this, and there is potential for crossover. Potential. Wild Assent came out first, and some of the mechanics and the basis of the mechanics and combat system in Stormsunder were based on there. So were based on Wild Assent. Next, I want to talk about the combat. So it's a bit different, even though Stormsunder was based on Wild Assent. Wild Assent doesn't have nearly as many cards, because essentially you've got your character mat, and by the way, the character mats in both are top notch, and I love me a good character mat. It brings the immersion level up so much compared to, it was one of the gripes I had about Gloomhaven, the character mat. It was just a picture with a copy paste on it, and so it wasn't as immersive. Anyways, character mats are really good, and I think that Wild Assent is actually tighter. It's a tighter combat. It's more streamlined. It's not a deck builder. Stormsunder is a deck builder, and it's got, like I said, 1,100 cards versus 360 in the base, and so yeah, it's got a lot more complexity in Stormsunder. But is that good complexity? That's the question, because some of the videos I've seen, I don't know if it's a good complexity. Like, honestly, it looks like there's maybe too many mechanics. There's a fine balance to strike in games where they should be complex in what can happen, but they should be reasonably simple in execution. Like, and it's, even though I love Kingdom Death Monster, it sometimes has some needless complexity. And same with Gloomhaven, like the monster AI rules in Gloomhaven they could use a little bit of work. The rolling modifiers an advantage. So I've seen Wild Assent. To me, I think Wild Assent is a really good mix of, complexity, but, without too many choices. When you have too many choices, there's too much, paralysis by analysis by paralysis. You know what I mean? And it can just bog the game down. When the game bogs down too far, it's not fun, and you miss so much stuff when you have too many complex rules and it's too fiddly. So I think that I like the deck building aspect of Stormsunder better. I'm more interested in having more cards and stuff like that. Whereas Wild Assent, it's essentially on a card. It's like abilities on a card. There's a phase where you go and you build up your encampment and stuff, but it's mostly your abilities that you're unlocking, and there's not nearly as many cards. So better, tighter combat, in my opinion, in Wild Assent. But I still want Stormsunder a little bit, but it feels too fiddly to me. Like, it does feel too fiddly, and so I think I'm calling this one a tie. I don't know. I think it's a tie, just because I like some things about one and some about the other. Anyone out there who, thinks they have a better understanding of Stormsunder, let me know. Do you think it's too fiddly? Like, I see like defense and armor and, guys getting prepared, like the targeting mechanics. I don't know if they're for me. Are they for you? I don't know. It seems like there's a lot going on, and I'm concerned that when the game actually comes out, there's going to be these, thousands of comments and response long threads on BGG and Reddit and wherever else, trying to figure out, like, okay, if this happened, should you do this? Should you target this person? When you're prepared, should you do this? Etc., etc. So yeah, I'm really curious to see kind of how that plays out. And I think it's going to be tough to choose between them. I still, even after all this talking, I don't know if I've actually decided. Hopefully this has helped you to think about it as well. If it has, make sure you go ahead and like the video, subscribe to my channel. I put out a lot of Gloomhaven content. Right now I'm also working on Scythe content. I do in-depth guides and analysis of the biggest games out there. I'll be really, busting it out on Frosthaven as well. And then also I'm building in Kickstarter segments like this where I'm going to talk about games. I think I want to analyze a lot of what's going on in the Kickstarter space right now because there's so many of these big games coming out. You need to choose, or you're just going to be, throwing your money away on games that you'll never be able to get to the table. And so one of my goals with this is to help people decide what games should you really get? What really is the best fit for you so that you can get all the games that you buy actually to the table. Like if Stormsunder is actually 300 plus hours a campaign, let's say it's 3 hours a session, you play one session a week, that's 100 weeks. You play Stormsunder for the next 2 years, right? There's not a lot of room for other games if you're really into Stormsunder. And so I think a lot of people, they get all excited, and I am definitely one of them. This is a Kickstarter problem. You get all excited, you go all in on these games, and they're $400, $500, $600, $700 for the all-in pledges. It adds up to be a lot of money. 119 plus 119 plus 149. That's a lot of cake. I'm freezing on the math right now, but that is a lot of money. And guaranteed, there's going to be, after the Kickstarter closes, there's going to be another pledge adding a bunch more stuff in. I mean, if there's one thing Lazy Squire does, it's, adding an insane amount of content. Like, just looking at all of this stuff, it's just ridiculous how much stuff. And ridiculous in a good way. I love stuff like this. I love, all the content. Anyways, those are my thoughts on the game. Let me know what you think. If there's anything I missed, any factors you think I haven't considered, make sure you go ahead and comment below. And then I also work with a company called Noble Knight Games. I've got a link down in the description. I'm a small channel. I need your support. If you click on that link and you buy anything from Noble Knight Games, I make a small commission. I need your help to support the channel. And so thank you so much for watching the video. And also a special thank you to my subscribers. I wouldn't be here without you. And I really appreciate you watching my videos and commenting and interacting. Thanks again.